Wow.
And you go back and edit this, is that right?
Yeah, my assistant will edit it.
Okay.
And her husband is really good at this kind of stuff. So they'll put their stuff together, and we'll have an intro and an exit out of it as well. So
Nice.
let me give just a couple of quick seconds of just blank space so they have something to work with here.
Okay.
Hi, this is Chris Kirk at Wild Blue, and this is the Wild Blue podcast where we discuss perspectives on aviation lives, lifestyles, and businesses. And today I've got Brian Bronson with me, and Brian is the president and CEO of Omaha Airplane Supply. So welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
What's interesting is it's probably been 6 months ago. I think it was on the KC Aviators web page or Facebook page, and you chimed in on something. I don't remember what it was. Somebody had a question or comment, and you mentioned something. And I had really, just being a total moron here, I had no idea who you guys were. And so I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I started checking you out. And then as things would happen, I'm trying to remember, when was this? We had an airplane in St. Joe, Missouri.
Yeah.
Coming in that day, and I don't remember if it was December or January or November. It was cold.
It was cold.
And you and I passed each other, and I saw you had your shirt on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool. And so I said something to you, and so that's really the first time we met. It was just by chance there passing, and I don't know what you were doing in St. Joe, but it was good that we both did that. So
sure. Yeah, we Omaha Airplane Supply, we get that reaction a lot. We don't know who you are. We've never heard of you. And for 54 years, I think, 54, 55 years, we're the biggest aircraft parts distributor that nobody's ever heard of, right? So
really? Yeah.
Our business model has been 100% wholesale. So we've been in the background supplying parts to all the engine overhaul shops and the FBOs and maintenance facilities. And then for a long time, and we still do to some extent, we've been the distributor for a lot of the popular online web e-commerce stores that people buy parts through. So you go to some of these more public-facing aircraft parts distributors or parts sales sites, and we're the distributor behind those, supplying a lot of parts.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there an example you can share? Would that be best not to
No, absolutely. Up until just last year, there was an acquisition between Aero Performance and Aircraft Spruce. So everybody knows Aircraft Spruce, great company, great ownership. And for the longest time, we supplied Aircraft Spruce with all the Lycoming and all the Continental parts.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So then there was an acquisition. They bought another company that had distribution. So that went away. You've heard of Ram Aircraft. I'm sure everybody's heard of Ram. They have very popular 520 and 550 conversions. And we supply them all the Continental parts for those conversions. So we, they've been a great source of business for a long time. Lycon up in Visalia, California, huge engine overhaul shop. We supply them with a ton of Lycoming parts. Chief Aircraft, we supply those folks with a lot of the consumables. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes that nobody sees, doing a lot of the heavy lifting, if you will.
Do you supply a lot of just FBOs and maintenance shops as well?
We do, and that's really been our kind of our rock for 50 some years. Is we've had great relationships with all the FBOs, in the Midwest and on the West Coast. The West Coast is served by our Long Beach, California facility, but we've really got a stronghold in the Midwest. I tell people that between the Rockies and the Mississippi, all of those people that are in the aircraft maintenance business know who we are because we've been doing business with them for so long. So, your small FBOs, your large maintenance facilities, the Elliott's of the world, Avcraft in Columbus, Nebraska is a very small FBO, but we supply those guys with parts. So we run the gamut of parts facilities, maintenance facilities, and fleets. We support a lot of fleets.
So you said you've got a facility in Long Beach. Is that like a distribution center, or how does that work?
Yeah, so Long Beach is kind of a mirror to Omaha. They have their own warehouse, their own sales staff. They do outside sales, inside sales. So it's pretty much a clone of the Omaha facility. Same name. The only thing Long Beach doesn't have is they don't have a hose shop that we have here in Omaha. So they serve the same kind of clients that we do. Fleets, maintenance facilities, overhaul shops, and engine overhaul shops, and component overhaul shops.
Okay. So now tell me if I'm wrong, but your background is a lot of kind of what I do, a lot of aircraft sales. How did you get involved with this?
Yeah, so, you know, I call myself a serial entrepreneur, really. I like to learn new things and get into new pieces of business and try to, you know, refine the process that works, so it works for me. But, you know, Chris, you and I had some competing interests, you know,
Sure.
a few years back, and
Yeah.
it's always good to play in the same arena with a company like yours. You guys do a nice job. And I came into Omaha Airplane Supply. So they're just a few miles from the airport I operated out of. And I'd buy parts, you know, batteries or lights, tires. And my business partner, he was talking to the president, Harold Cheeseman, who has been with the company for almost its inception. And he said, Harold, when are you going to retire? And he said, well, we got a meeting about that in a couple weeks, and you know, we think it's time. So we approached the ownership group and kind of fell into it. We didn't really have any aspirations to own an aircraft parts distribution company, but we knew that the company had a legacy. It had a recognizable brand, very loyal customers, and more importantly, it had distribution on parts that people just can't get today. It's almost impossible for someone to go to Lycoming and get a distributorship, or Continental or Goodyear. So the distributorships are really locked up tight. So we knew that all the pieces were there, and if we could just refine some of the processes and bring technology to the company to, you know, increase the efficiency with the workflows, we knew that Omaha Airplane Supply really had a future in parts distribution.
And that's been what, a year and a half ago?
About a year and a half ago. Yep. About
a year and a half ago. So far, is it panning out more or less the way you envisioned?
It's been really great. It's been a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players in this side of the business that I don't know, and that, you know, aviation is a small community. We're all very trusting, but we need to earn people's trust, right? So like in the aircraft sales business, you know, you want to believe that the broker on the other end of the phone is a good person and gonna do a good deal. And the same is true in parts distribution. Just because you have this foundation, it doesn't mean you've earned the trust of the other players. So that's been kind of interesting to overcome. And, you know, the competition is out there. There's a lot of consolidation happening in the industry. We've got, you know, distributors buying manufacturers, and manufacturers buying distributors, and distributors buying other distributors, and, you know, maintenance facilities buying distributors. So there's just a lot of movement right now. It's pretty cool to watch.
What would you say sets you guys apart from some of that other competition?
Yeah, so I think that our shining piece here is our people. The people that have been at Omaha Airplane Supply have been here for decades. And, you know, that presents a different set of challenges. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you know, we get customers that call in, and a lot of times they know the part number they need. And a lot of times, you know, we have engines that are being opened up for the first time in 40 years or 30 years. So they get in there and start looking at part numbers inside the engine, and that part number has been superseded 6 times. So, you know, our staff has the experience to know, okay, this part number is a bolt on a connecting rod and it's been superseded 3 times. I recognize this number from 30 years ago. Here's the new one. So
Right.
I think what
Okay.
sets us apart is the technical support that we have, in my opinion, is better than anybody else out there. We really dive into the problems and we really try to help the customer with whatever problem they're trying to solve, because we know that if our customers can be successful and we can help them be successful, then that will come back our way and we will be successful. So
Sure.
definitely, without question, it's the people.
So a lot of corporate knowledge then, what you're saying for the folks that you have. So how many employees do you have?
Yeah, we've got about 23 employees spread between both facilities. Most of those are internal. Right now we have 2 outside salespeople, and we're going to be adding a couple more of those in some select regions. And then, there's been a very, very large distributor that got bought by a very large company. And a lot of those inside sales reps, technical reps, they're out looking for jobs. So we're working with a model right now where we can employ those people remotely, because a lot of them live in Kansas City, a lot of them live in Minneapolis or Dallas. So we want to try to capture their knowledge, put them on our team. And we know that the idea of moving from Kansas City to Omaha, it's not going to work for people, right? So we're trying to model a program where, they can work from home. We're living in this COVID-19 pandemic right now, and we're seeing a lot of people being forced to work from home. And a lot of companies and business owners are looking at that saying, wow, this can actually work. There might be some merit to this. So we're trying to piggyback on that and understand how we can capture a lot of this knowledge and bring it into our company.
Sure. So as an owner, as a leader, as an entrepreneur of your company, you've got a lot of challenges that you face. What do you see as your most important role? Is it business development? Is it leading your team? I mean, maybe it's all a combination of all of them.
Yeah, aircraft sales is great, right? You have an asset that you're going to dispose of for somebody, or you have a buyer who is excited to go buy an airplane, and that's your transaction, that's your focus. And parts distribution is totally different. There's a million moving pieces, and at any given day, your direction changes. So I think if I had to boil everything down to one, what is the most important thing for me to do as a leader? It's to not be the smartest person in the room. I need to make sure that all the other disciplines involved in running a business like this, I have the smartest people in those positions, because it's not me. I can't pretend to be, I know everything about finances and I know everything about, technical information. So the most important part for me was to put the right people in the right places. And when I do that, it allows me to focus on the big picture. And that's, moving the company forward, bringing it into the electronic age, and positioning ourselves to compete against some of the other, e-commerce type parts distributors.
Yeah, that's a really good concept, I think, of leadership. And the one thing that somebody taught me years ago, and I think this applies so much in aviation, is there are no experts in aviation. There's only people who refuse to quit learning.
Yeah, that's right.
And as soon as I hear somebody tell me they're an expert, or they ask me if I'm an expert, I'm like, I'm not even close.
Yeah, the best we can do is regurgitate what we've learned, and it amazes me. There's a lot of things that I feel really comfortable in. A lot of airframes that I feel really comfortable. And then every time I get involved, I learn something new. And
Right.
I think a good leader is always learning new things. To put yourself in a position that, you know, I can't be taught and I know everything is
Yeah.
not going to work.
And there are those people out there.
Absolutely.
So in your business now, give me a little bit of background, if you will, on your flying experience. You fly, you're a pilot, and how does all that kind of mesh with Omaha Airplane Supply?
Yeah. So if you got time for a story, I'll take you
Yeah.
back to how I got into it, because it kind of all plays together. My family moved from Northern California to Columbus, Nebraska in like 1996. And I played high school football. I moved between my junior and senior year to Nebraska. And that's what you do in the Midwest, is you play high school football. That's what you do. So that's what I did. Is I went out to the football team, and it was hot and humid and miserable. And I had no friends because I was new. And the humidity was like miserable. And I'm standing there on the football field one day. I see an airplane fly over, a small airplane. I look up, and I remember the thought so clear. I thought, that has got to be better than this. Whatever that is, it's got to be better than this. So that was my last day of football practice.
Is that right?
Yeah, I turned my pads in. I was like, thanks, I'm out. So I went out to the FBO and I talked to the folks there, and I said, look, you know, I'm new here. Do you have a job? Maybe I want to learn how to fly. So they put me to work pumping gas. And that's where I got my start in aviation and my foundation. And I started trading working hours for flying hours. And I worked there for a long time. I got my private pilot's license there with the operator. And great group of guys to work with. I really cut my teeth there and learned a lot about maintenance and, you know, aircraft line support stuff and fueling and different types of airplanes. So then I thought, well, I should probably make this a job. This should probably be my deal, because I really enjoy it. So I went off to a small 2-year school in Iowa, Iowa Lakes Community College. It's still operating today, and it's a great program. Got all my ratings, came back to Columbus, did a lot of flight instructing, helped out in the shop, and then moved to Omaha, where I took a job with the University of Nebraska. They had a Piper Saratoga that was outfitted with some camera equipment. Duncan Aviation had cut a hole in the belly and put some mounts in there. So I spent about 3,500 hours in a Saratoga mapping all kinds of parts of the country.
Wow.
And really got a lot of experience there. And, you know, then there was kind of a downturn in the economy, and I sort of thought, well, maybe I'll take a break from aviation. So I got into some other businesses, and I used aviation to my advantage. I had a trucking and logistics company. I had a property management company. So I would fly, you know, I'd fly to see customers. I'd fly to business meetings. I would do, move truck drivers around, or, you know, I used it as part of my logistics network to get people to where they needed to be. And I sold that company probably about 6 years ago. And I thought, well, what am I going to do now? So I went out to the local FBO at the Millard Airport, Oracle Aviation, and a guy by the name of Bob Negus had just taken over the operations. And I said, Bob, you know, you interviewed me for a job like 15 years ago, and you didn't hire me, but that's okay. I know you don't remember me, but I'm back now and I want to sell airplanes. And he kind of laughed at me and thought, you know, everybody wants to sell airplanes.
Yeah.
So I did a Bonanza deal just kind of on my own, didn't really know anything about it. I figured it all out. And then I literally cleaned out a broom closet at Oracle Aviation, put all the stuff in the hangar, set up a little desk and a laptop. And I said, all right, I'm really going to do this. And so that's how my aircraft sales career started, I just wanted to do it. It's something I wanted to do. And I had sold my other company. So that's what I did. And I fell in love with, some people hate this term. I love the term, but I fell in love with the short body Bonanzas, you know, the V35 or the 35 model and the 33s and the short Barons. And, I sold a lot of those airplanes and did a lot of acquisitions on those. And then it turned into some Pilatus and some TBM transactions. So I did that for a long time. And that, I love aircraft sales, and I love the art of the deal, and, the people and the excitement. And, I even like to deal with some of the sadness that an owner faces when he has to sell his airplane. It's kind of like it comes full circle, right?
Yeah.
You sit there and listen to his stories about when he started and how excited he was when he bought the airplane and all the trips he's taken in it. And now, it's time for it to go away. So that's kind of my aviation career in a nutshell. And then I walked into Omaha Airplane Supply one day, and here I am.
Yeah,
I'm driving the boat.
You just recently sold Bonanza.
I did.
And I know you and I've had other conversations, but you guys are not flying anything currently for the business, or are you?
Yeah, so I sold my Bonanza 2 or 3 months ago. And, when I did that, I really looked at our mission personally, my wife and I looked at the company, what the company needs in an airplane. So I started looking at, going back to that short body Bonanza deal. Looked at some other Bonanzas, some more weather capable airplanes, looked at the 55 series Barons, and against all of the advice of everybody I've talked to, I actually am closing on a 56 TC next week.
Oh, all right. That is a, well, it's a unique airplane.
It is a unique airplane, but my position is this. I'm tied in with a maintenance facility.
Yeah.
And I own a parts distribution company. So if anybody should own a 56 TC, it's me. I've got all the parts. I've got the mechanics to work on them. And I like unique airplanes. I like things that are different and special. And the 56 TC, is based on the C55, and it was kind of the test bed for the Duke. So it's got 380 horse Lycomings out there, and I don't know. I look forward to flying it. We'll see how it works. But the mission was, as we visit vendors and manufacturers and some of the larger customers, I found myself in the Bonanza not wanting to fly at night, and really having to delay for weather, and not wanting to do any over water operations, not really wanting to go over the Rocky Mountains. And, with having a Long Beach facility, it became really clear to me that, a piston twin is what I needed personally, and what would benefit the company the most.
So I think I saw somewhere that one of your goals is to fly the Bahamas with your family.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to do that in this airplane?
We are, and that was really a driving force for this airplane, or for a twin, was, Continental and Lycoming, look, they're reliable. They make good products. They just do. But they do fail. And I don't want to be the guy where it fails and I'm out over the ocean somewhere and I'm going swimming in a raft. So that definitely led into the decision of, let's get some redundancy. Let's have more of a safety margin. And we've got a trip. We've got a trip planned to St. Croix and a trip planned to Aruba, which I've already flight planned in the Baron, and it works. so yeah, that is definitely on the list.
Yeah. Well, that's neat, because I think if somebody calls your business, and one of the things I've always been somewhat surprised about is you talk with an aviation business, sometimes it's sales even, and I guess I'll call it the lack of well-roundedness with some of the folks that you talk to. You don't have to be a pilot to sell airplanes, nor do you necessarily have to have a sales background. But if you're lacking some of that stuff, then you're not bringing as much to the table. And so what's cool is, people call you about your business looking for something, and you've got a lot of different things that you bring to the table that can kind of guide them in the right direction. And I think that's very valuable for people who are looking to you to solve their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, just yesterday I worked with a guy. He has a Bonanza with DeShannon tip tanks, and he wants to add LED lights to his DeShannon tip tanks. And we're a distributor for Wayland. We're a distributor for Aero LEDs.
Right.
And everybody's talking about how Wayland wouldn't work and this or that. So I knew from my industry experience that there was a solution out there. So I messaged this guy, and we got on the phone call, and lo and behold, the Aero LED, one of the Aero LED lines works perfectly in the DeShannon tip tanks. So I was able to, instead of just saying, sorry, I don't know, I can't help you, I really wanted to help this guy out. I really wanted to help him get into the LED era of aircraft lighting. And turns out that there's kind of a problem out there with these particular tip tanks and not having lighting solutions for them. So, it's just my passion for aviation and general aviation really kind of drives the solutions I want to provide people.
Well, I think that says a lot about you and your business, because clearly there are bigger things to attack out there for your business. You got bigger customers. You got a lot more volume you can be doing, and that you took the time to kind of educate somebody on a one-off, smaller airplane, smaller transaction basis. That's pretty important, and I think that says a lot. And actually, going back, I don't know if you even remember, but I don't know if I'd asked you personally or if I'd asked you via Facebook one time, because I was looking for LEDs for my airplane too, and still am. I shouldn't say I'm still looking for them. I know what I'm going to put on there because of what you told me, and I know that's where we're going to get them. Haven't done it yet, but you came back pretty quickly, and I value that a lot, because there's a lot of folks. What's interesting to me is, just a side note, the number of people that call us up, and then we'll call them back, and they'll say, "My gosh, you guys returned my phone call."
Yeah, we get that a lot. My son-in-law,
aren't you?
My son-in-law is in the concrete business. He's just starting out, and he says, what's the most important thing? Do I need this kind of equipment, or how do I price it? And I said, Christian, that's all second. I said, the most important thing is to call your customers back.
Yeah.
You have to keep the lines of communication open. And we had a conversation the other day. He's like, man, you're right. I can't believe how many people say, wow, you actually called me back. And to your point, I think everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, there's a lot of people in business that they are always looking down the road. They're looking for the next deal, the next thing. The grass is always greener. But, Chris, I know you do a lot of work to kind of keep your trough full, right? You're always building your pipeline, and you've always got a lot of airplanes, either in inventory or on brokerage or whatever. And you do these little sneak peeks. I saw one of a Baron last night on Facebook. Nice job.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice job of reeling me in. But the fact that, you're taking care of the future, but you've been very responsive to your current customers, both on, acquisition and disposal sides. That's where I think the lovers of general aviation, that's what they do. They have this passion of, I want to help these people. And I let that flow through into my business. And, I tell my sales guys, don't let this go. Someone's calling you to buy something. It's because they're likely not kicking tires. There's not very many financially challenged people in aviation. Everybody, wants the latest gadget or widget. So
right.
I'd like them to buy it from us.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this: as a business owner, now even though you're in the business or in the aviation arena, but as a business owner nonetheless, who do you see as benefiting the most as other business owners from getting into aviation or getting into general aviation, having an airplane for their business? What do you see working best? You've got some experience here.
Yeah. So One of the things we didn't talk about is I sold a group a PC-12 3 years ago, and they excited to buy the airplane, but they didn't have any way to crew it. So on a short-term basis, I said, okay, I'll crew the airplane for you. And it's worked out so well, I just continue to fly it for them.
Oh, okay.
PC-12 is a great airplane. And, I see them using it to move executives to meetings, right? So where in today's time, you move employees on an airline somewhere, it is at least an all-day affair, if not a 2-day situation, just to go to a meeting. So, we move a lot of executives to meetings, and it works really well. Time is a commodity, and it's the only commodity that we just can't get more of. We can go make more money. People in aviation, people that use aviation, in their businesses, they've figured out the secret sauce to figure out how to make money and support those habits or those tools. But the time is something that we don't get more of. So, I explain it to our board of directors and my wife and everybody else, about general aviation is it buys you time. It's a time machine. And for anybody who values time, you can't put a dollar amount on it. You just can't. So people that value their time need to get places efficiently and consistently, I think really benefit the most from general aviation.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's something that we all have in common. We've all got the same amount of time. We don't know when our time is up, and
right.
It's how we're going to utilize that. And that's a really good perspective. And you're exactly right. I see a lot of that with folks who, they're moving, especially as they're moving up the line. A customer comes to mind right now. We're working on a Meridian acquisition for him, and he's kind of the ideal guy, right? He understands that because of the efficiencies of GA, he's been able to get his business where it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
It definitely helps with growth when you can hit 4 or 5 cities in a day. I think of a restaurant franchise owner, and he uses general aviation to hit several cities in a day. I know a guy that owns a salon franchise, and he's going to use his airplane to hit all of his stores in a day, and it turns a 2-week trip into a couple of days. And if that's not a good example of saving time, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, let me kind of wrap up with this question, and it's as open-ended as you want to make it. But what's next for you, and what's next for Omaha Airplane Supply?
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting things coming. Before this, I really enjoyed a lot of time with my wife and family. In aircraft sales, it gives you a lot of time, a lot of flexibility. And I haven't had that at Omaha Airplane Supply. It's, I tell my wife all the time, it's easier to build a company from scratch than it is to take a 50-year-old company and mold it to what you want it to be. So, we put a lot of time and effort into bringing Omaha Airplane Supply into this century. So we've got a lot of really exciting things happening. Our hose shop is expanding. We're building hoses for more OEM customers. We've got e-commerce coming. So all of the great wholesale pricing and service that we've given our customers over the decades, we're going to open most of that up to the end users. So, and that's in an effort to compete with some of the other e-commerce parts companies out there. So that's exciting. We're looking at a couple of new locations that will help expand our market and expand our footprint. So that's coming, and just more upward growth. We want to continue to align ourselves with good customers, with good people that have good values, and really forge relationships that we've had like we've had for 50 years. We want to continue to build those and provide excellent customer service and parts for the general aviation public.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. And it's clearly about the people with you, which I think is really neat. So
Yeah,
just
without people, what do you have? You have a bunch of commodities. And I really, through this whole COVID crisis thing, we haven't laid off a single person. We haven't cut a shift. As a matter of fact, I've had all my people working overtime. I've looked for additional responsibilities for them to, I don't want to give handouts, but hey, if you want to come into work, you can have all the overtime you want. Here's all the stuff that needs to be done. So they've, a lot of them have taken advantage of that. And I think really appreciate the offer.
Yeah, that's neat. And so you brought up one thing, just final question here is, you mentioned your family. So you've got how many kids?
We do. We have a blended family. My wife and I, we've been married for 5 years. I think it's 5 years. Sorry. It's close.
Don't apologize to me.
Yeah, we have 6 kids, 6 children together. And she has 4 and I have 2. And it's pretty awesome, right? We have 22 years old to 9 years old. So we have kids that have graduated college and are buying houses and getting married, all the way down through, the 9-year-old who's trying to figure out his multiplication table still.
Yeah. Yeah. So they like to fly?
Yeah, they do. The oldest son is a private pilot. He's working on his instrument rating. A couple of the kids are big into softball and baseball. And so every chance we get, we fly to the tournaments or the games. And what they really enjoy is when I was more involved with aircraft sales, I'd have a new airplane in inventory. So I remember one time I had a Carbon Cub, and we all just took turns flying the Carbon Cub, and we found a sandbar out on the river, and we go land in the sandbar, a grass field or something. And they really, really enjoyed that. They always talk about going flying and wanting to go flying. And now they're coming up with these weird destinations like, hey, can we fly to Dallas to go to this ice cream place? I'm like,
oh, wow.
Isn't there like an ice cream place closer? So they're getting pretty creative on how to use the airplanes, what to do with them. So great family, great kids. My wife is awesome. Really been a rock in my aviation life, both on the corporate flying side and the new businesses side. So it's been great. It's been great to have her by my side and have a family that really supports it. So I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You're a blessed man. That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I do want to give you the opportunity. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, www.omahaairplanesupply.com. And today it's more of an informational website. Give us 30 or 60 days, probably into August or something, and we'll have a full e-commerce site there. But, please pick up the phone and give us a call. The 800 numbers are on the website for the Omaha facility or Long Beach. Doesn't matter where you call, the parts will be fulfilled out of the closest warehouse. And on our website, we've got all the lines that we distribute for. And, when you call, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, it's okay. We will help you figure it out. We have libraries full of Cessna manuals and Beech manuals and Piper manuals and Lycoming and Continental. So if you don't know what you're looking for, it's okay. We'll help you find it.
Great. Well, Brian Bronson, Omaha Airplane Supply, thank you so much for taking your time here today.
All right, Chris, have a good one. Take care.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
See ya.